Howdy, boys and girls and boyses and girlses, and welcome back to the Carla and Crappy Show. I'm going to learn how to say that someday. I'm a little wound up because I'm in Pittsburgh, and for a change, nobody in Pittsburgh is thinking about football. As you might hear, Carla, you got something going on there.
Yeah, I'm wearing the Garrett Cole shirt today.
Nice.
Yep.
Nice.
Yep.
So, of course, baseball playoffs. The National League Wild Card game will be starting here in just a little while, which is why we're taping this now. So we're gonna get this football stuff done so we can watch a little baseball for a change.
Shortest Carla and Crappy show ever. No, I'm kidding.
Yes, thank you guys. It's been great. We will talk to you again next week. We're out of here. Carla, I hope you've had a good week. I did want to ask you, as promised. You guys can't read this. I know you can't.
Yeah,
but that's the notation that says Middle Tennessee State beats Vandy, and man, it was close, right?
Yeah, it was. It was heartbreaking, actually, because if a football game went 58 minutes and 30 seconds, that would have happened. Yeah. Middle gave up a late touchdown to Vandy in less than ideal conditions, which was true for most of the country on Saturday.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it was raining ridiculously down there in Murfreesboro, and I put on turf, so but still, it affects the game regardless of what surface you're playing on. When everything is soaked, it just changes everything, and not that that's an excuse, but I would have loved to have seen that game played in better conditions. But yeah, it was heartbreaking. I was keeping an eye on the score, and then we flipped over to watch the end of the fourth quarter and saw that touchdown, and I just went, like, it was just super deflating because, energy was up. It was homecoming. And, So, but next year, maybe? Next year,
sure. Next year. And a 3-point loss, I'm going to go ahead and give you credit for the win. If for no other reason than my record for picking games last week was brutal. There's a word that comes to mind.
Would somebody wake up Georgia? Like, tap them on the shoulder and tell them that we're still playing football.
I know, and I just don't. There's a couple of those were head scratchers, but had a outside of heart palpitations watching Ohio State struggle in Bloomington. It was definitely a fun week, fun weekend, and we're looking forward to another one.
Mm-hmm.
We have three games here to pick, and we're going to start in the Big Ten, as we do, and this is. This one qualifies as the early conference game of the year. This is a number 13 Northwestern visiting. Here's an odd thing for me to say. Number 18 Michigan. Michigan's a 7.5 point favorite at home. And of course Northwestern. I don't know which one of these teams is more surprising. But what do you think about this one?
A little bit of both, and I think the third thing that's surprising is the fact that Michigan is ranked lower than Northwestern, yet favored.
Yeah,
which
that's a curious thing.
Which shows you how messed up college football is this year, right? I mean, really, like, we've got teams ranked above other teams, and that's why you can't do the law of attrition. And you look, and part of the reason for that is probably after I looked at some of the statistics between these two teams, because, okay, we know quite a bit about Michigan because they get the national attention.
Yep.
We don't know a lot about Northwestern other than the big Stanford win that kind of shocked everybody in week one.
Mm-hmm.
And they had a great win against Duke, but that game wasn't nationally televised. That was a regional telecast. And so we haven't seen a lot of Northwestern. So I decided to look at some statistics. You want to talk about two evenly matched teams.
Right.
It's Northwestern and Michigan. I mean, you can't get any more identical than this. I wrote them down because this is fascinating. So points per game, Northwestern 25.4, Michigan 27.8.
Mm-hmm.
Points allowed per game, Northwestern 7, Michigan 7.6.
And I think that's good for number 1 and number 2 in the country.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yards per game, Northwestern 391, Michigan 392.
Okay.
The one difference here that there's a little bit of differentiation is in yards allowed, and Northwestern has actually given up more yards on defense, even though their defense is ranked higher. Northwestern gives up about 247 yards per game. Michigan's only giving up about 184. So there is a bit of a significant difference there. Clayton Thorson, the quarterback for Northwestern, off to a solid start, but, and there's a big but here with both quarterbacks actually, has not thrown a touchdown pass against any of the major opponents.
Okay.
So against Stanford and Duke, no touchdown passes. That's all been rushing, special teams and defense. Michigan, on the other hand, Jake Ruddock has an interception problem. I mean, he really does. He's thrown a pick in almost every game, which makes this a really interesting thing. Michigan has won 4 straight in the series. Northwestern would really like to get a win against Michigan, especially this graduating class that has been close in the last couple of games. I'm going to go out on a limb here and say Northwestern wins this game.
Okay.
Just because I think Northwestern is for real this year. I think they match up really, really well. Michigan just lost a key defensive player to a season-ending injury. Unfortunately, again, season of injuries. I mean, come on, give us a break. Michigan just lost a key defensive player. They're starting a kid that's only made 2 starts on defense in his place. I don't know. I just think this is Northwestern's chance to kind of stake its claim in the Big Ten and say, hey, no, really, we're legit this year.
Okay. I'm good with that. In fact, I have Northwestern as my pick as well. It is still tough. I know we're into October now, and we have a better idea of what these teams are. But you still don't really know. And I actually have more questions about Michigan because I'm more familiar with them, and I know they have the same players that they've had for the past several seasons, and experience certainly counts for something, and Jim Harbaugh certainly counts for something. But these are the same guys, and at some point, I think they're prone to these kind of the mysterious these things that have kept them from being a top level program for the last decade. I'm also just a little bit more impressed with Northwestern's resume.
Yeah.
Michigan has the loss against Utah, and certainly it was not a bad loss. And Utah, we'll talk more about them in a little bit. But shutout of a Minnesota team that has a pretty good offense, holding Stanford to 6. In the last 3 weeks, Stanford scored 40 plus against the Pac-12 opponents. That's a great defensive effort, and I think this is we used to make fun of the SEC for the 9-6 games and that sort of stuff. And I think that is what is going to what's going to be on tap in Michigan Stadium. But I think I see Northwestern winning a painfully ugly defensive struggle. But a win nonetheless for the Wildcats.
Hey, we got a 10-6 game in the Big Ten last week.
Yes. Unlike the game I was watching. Oh God. Next, we're gonna go to the SEC. Florida, which made an impressive statement a week ago, visits Missouri. Florida's ranked number 11th. They are 5-0. Missouri's only got 1 loss on the season. But Florida's a 5-point favorite on the road. What do you think?
Florida's got everybody's headlines this week, for sure,
Right.
after, completely dominating that game against Ole Miss. And it makes you wonder, was Will Muschamp really that bad? You have to start asking that question. Was he really the problem all this time? And then you look at the roster and you go, no, Will Grier has solved a lot of the offensive issues that Florida has had. Florida hasn't had a signature quarterback under center really since Tebow. And it looks like Will Grier is kind of ready to step into that role. And he handled the pressure last week at home in a big stage really, really well. My concern here with Florida is the fact that this is a classic letdown game. They're on the road against an opponent that on paper they should beat, especially after last week. But again, looking ahead a week, they're at LSU. So you're coming off emotional high. This should be, in theory, a win. Looking ahead to LSU on the road in Missouri can be an interesting environment. That's a little bit of a concern. The other thing that's interesting is that Will Grier is just a freshman. And he has shown freshman moments at times, not a lot, but when he throws an interception, the games that Florida has won this year have been really, really close. So the Tennessee game, the Kentucky game, East Carolina, all three of those games, which Florida won by a single digit, Greer threw an interception. He did not throw picks in the two huge Florida wins. I think that's key. I think if Greer can not throw a pick, I'm feeling pretty good about the Gators in this game, simply because of a couple of things. Matty Mock, again, not playing for Missouri. I don't care what they say, that impacts the offense. Yes, the offense looked good, but it's not the same when you're starting another freshman in his second career start. The offense at Missouri just not that prolific. Remember that 9-6 brutality against UConn. The classic Big Ten game that was not entertaining at all to watch. That was just ugly. And the other thing that kind of leads me to believe that this is going to be a Florida win is they have a common opponent so far this season in Kentucky. They played them in consecutive weeks. Florida won the game 14-9. Again, ugly. Greer had a pick. Mizzou lost 21-13. So I think this all points to a Florida win. I think it'll probably be closer than what people will expect, especially coming off of the Ole Miss game, and being on the road in Missouri. I think it'll be closer, but I think Florida gets the win.
And it makes sense. You talk about this, the potential for being a letdown game. You look at Florida stats; it's kind of middle of the road stuff. Nothing really stands out, and we stand to find out what Florida is about over the next 2 weeks after this one at LSU, and then in the game that we're no longer supposed to. It's the world's largest cocktail party. A 5-point spread here. I think maybe that's Las Vegas taking into account that they're expecting Florida to be a little bit off, and that's I think that's probably right. If Florida's not coming off the game that they are coming off, I could see a 10-point favorite here even on the road for the Gators. As it is, I think Florida's going to win this one. As you do, and then we have one other final game. This is the stay up late game if you want to, and it would be a fun one. It would be a fun one to stay up for. This is a number 23 Cal visiting Utah. Both teams are undefeated. Utah is a 7-point favorite at home. Right now, this is not something that I would have said at the outset of the season, but this is a possible Pac-12 championship preview. What do you think?
Yeah. Well, I think you said about all three of these games this week. That, like, at the beginning of the season, none of these games would have been on our radars. It's been really kind of a fascinating season, and this game is big enough that this is where game day is going this week.
Right.
Is heading up there, which feel good for the kids from Provo. That's kind of cool to have game day out there on their campus for a game like this. Cal's offense is really, really good. I don't know if you knew that.
I'm aware.
527 yards per game, and Jared Goff has already thrown 15 touchdown passes, and we're only 5 games in. So they've been really, really impressive. However, their margins of victory have not been all that impressive. Defensively, they let Texas back into the game that Texas should have tied to send to overtime, except for that whole little missed extra point thing, which everybody, the Longhorns just don't want to talk about right now. And their next 2 games were against Washington and Wazoo, and they won, but it wasn't in impressive fashion. Those 3 games total, they won by a lump sum of 13 points.
Right.
And Washington and Wazoo, not necessarily the cream of the crop in the Pac-12. So that's kind of an interesting remark, more on Cal's defense than on Cal's offense. Utah obviously has the more impressive resume after coming off of that Oregon win. They're also coming off of a bye week, so they've had 2 weeks to prepare for this Cal offense that has been so prolific. And they've got themselves a running back in Devontae Booker who has almost 500 yards, and they've only played 4 games. So he's averaging more than 100 yards a game already, playing at home. This is a Cal team that last year went 4-1 to start the season and then promptly lost 6 of its last 7. Mm-hmm. Cal is trying desperately for that not to happen, but I think they're going to move to 5-1 after this one. I think the Utah defense is going to figure out this Cal offense. Playing at home with the national spotlight after doing what they did to Oregon, we've seen how good that Utah defense is. We've seen how quick-paced the Utah offense can be. Right. Taking on the role of Oregon in that game. I think Utah wins this.
Okay, I agree with the pick. I'm going to go with Utah as well. My reasoning is a little bit different. I'm not sure that Utah's defense is even going to need to figure out Cal's offense or Utah's offense. Perfectly balanced. I mean, these are the averages on the season: 189 yards passing, 204 rushing per game. Boom, right down the middle. And you mentioned the running game. This could very easily turn into a game of keep away. Utah slows the pace a little bit, keeps the ball away from Cal's offense, and rolls to a win. And let's go watch some baseball.
Sounds good to me. Let's go Bucks.
Let's go Bucks.
I hope that when we say that, when people watch this show on Friday, that we can still be saying "Let's go Bucks."
That would be cool. And people will get a look at this. Do you have any feelings one way or the other about the game tonight?
About the game tonight,
because everyone's going to know.
Yeah, well, tonight's the game that terrifies me about the whole postseason. To be honest, if the Bucks can get past tonight and get past Arrieta, I like their chances against the Cardinals. I like the way the Bucks set up in that series potential. But I haven't felt this way heading into a game since I felt in 2009 when the Pens headed into the Stanley Cup playoffs. When you knew the team, when you knew the team had potential to win the whole thing,
mm-hmm.
and that opening series against the Flyers had everybody on edge.
Mm-hmm.
And it's the same feeling tonight. That opening game against the Cubs has everybody on edge. Got to beat the Cubs to be able to have a chance to move on. And gosh, Arrieta is good.
The one game thing is
good.
Yes, the one game thing is scary and also a lot of fun. There's a quote from McCutcheon in the last day or so that says, you don't look at this postseason thing and say you want the easiest road possible. You want to play the best and beat the best, and that's what they're going to do tonight. And maybe when we do next week's show, we can continue talking briefly about postseason baseball. Carla, have a great week and a great weekend, and we will talk to you again soon.
Sounds good. See you all next week.
Thank you, guys. Have a great one. We'll talk to you later.